For centuries, the moon has captivated humanity, its glowing presence in our night sky inspiring myths, guiding explorers, and fueling our wildest dreams of what lies beyond Earth. Yet for all our fascination, for all the missions we've sent racing toward its dusty surface, the moon still guards secrets that defy explanation. Think about that for a moment. We've walked on its plains, mapped its craters, and even left footprints in its soil, and yet strange phenomena continue to surface, anomalies that leave even the brightest minds scratching their heads. What if I told you that some of these mysteries aren't just gaps in our knowledge but potential clues pointing to something far more astonishing lurking in the shadows of our closest celestial neighbor? Picture this, a supposedly airless world where strange flashes of light dance across its surface without cause, towering structures that cast impossibly long shadows. Odd geometric shapes hidden in plain sight, looking anything but natural. These aren't scenes from science fiction, they're real, documented occurrences captured by astronauts, telescopes, and orbiting probes. And the more we look, the more questions pile up. Why do these anomalies exist? Who or what could be responsible? With every answered question, the moon seems to throw back two more, pulling us deeper into a cosmic puzzle we've only just begun to piece together. Today, we're diving headfirst into the enigma. This isn't just a list of oddities, it's a journey through 25 of the most baffling, spine-tingling lunar anomalies ever recorded. Some may have scientific explanations waiting to be uncovered. Others, well, they might just rewrite what we thought we knew about our silent neighbor. So buckle up, because by the end of this, you won't look at the moon the same way again. The truth is out there, and it's closer than you think. One of the moon's most mesmerizing mysteries lies in its bizarre, almost artistic swirls, luminous patterns that curl across the surface like cosmic brushstrokes. These aren't random, they form distinct glowing formations, with the most famous Reiner Gamma stretching over 40 miles of the lunar landscape. At first glance, they might resemble the aftermath of some celestial splash, but their origins have left scientists scrambling for answers. What makes these lunar swirls so baffling? For one, they're strikingly bright, standing out against the darker lunar soil like ghostly fingerprints. Even stranger, they don't follow the usual rules of erosion or crater aging. While the rest of the moon weathers under constant micrometeorite impacts and solar radiation, these swirls stay pristine, seemingly untouched by time. Some researchers think powerful magnetic fields might be shielding them, bending charged particles away like an invisible force field. Others argue the swirls could be scars from ancient comet strikes, where icy impacts left behind reflective mineral deposits. But here's the kicker. No theory fully explains why some swirls appear alongside strong magnetic anomalies, while others don't, or why their shapes are so eerily symmetrical. And then there's the bigger question: what else could be at play? Rare lunar magnetism, some hidden geological process we've yet to uncover, or perhaps something even more unexpected. The moon refuses to give up this secret easily, and until we can study these swirls up close, they'll remain one of its most tantalizing puzzles. Now, imagine gazing up at the moon through a telescope and suddenly spotting a flicker of light. Not a distant star, not a satellite, but a globe bursting from the lunar surface itself. This isn't science fiction. It's a real, centuries-old mystery known as Transient Lunar Phenomena, or TLP. These unpredictable flashes, eerie radiances, and even temporary darkening patches have been documented by astronomers since at least the 1500s, with reports ranging from brief sparks to luminous clouds lingering for hours. Even NASA astronauts during the Apollo missions radioed back sightings of unexplained brightenings, adding modern credibility to these age-old observations. So what could possibly cause these ghostly lights on a world without an atmosphere? One leading theory points to outgassing pockets of trapped radioactive gas like radon seeping through cracks in the moon's crust, releasing energy that briefly illuminates the surrounding soil. Others argue meteor impacts might be to blame, with space rocks striking the surface at such high speeds that they vaporize on impact, creating momentary flashes visible from Earth. But here's the catch: TLPs don't always behave the way these theories predict. Some flashes repeat in the same locations, like the disturbingly active crater Aristarchus, while others vanish without a trace, leaving no detectable heat or chemical traces behind. And then there are the colors. Reports describe everything from ruby red to sapphire blue, hues that don't neatly match known geological processes. The controversy deepens when you consider how often these events are dismissed as tricks of the eye or equipment malfunctions. Skeptics argue Earth's atmosphere distorts observations, while believers counter that too many trained observers, including famed astronomers like Sir William Herschel, have recorded identical anomalies over centuries for it to be mere coincidence. Even today, with high-resolution cameras and lunar orbiters scanning the surface, TLPs remain stubbornly elusive, flickering into existence just long enough to defy explanation before fading back into the moon's silence. Whether natural or something far more perplexing, one thing's certain: until we catch these phenomena in the act, the moon's phantom lights will keep us guessing. Among the moon's many enigmas, few spark as much debate as the so-called Tower of the Moon, a peculiar spire-like formation that juts defiantly from the lunar surface. First spotted in images from NASA's a lunar reconnaissance orbiter, this anomaly rises nearly 5 miles high, casting a shadow so long and sharp it defies the chaotic, cratered terrain around it. At first glance, it could pass as a trick of light or a bizarre rock formation, but look closer and the questions multiply. Why does it stand so starkly isolated? How could natural erosion produce such a narrow, towering shape on a world where gravity and micrometeorites should have worn it down eons ago? Skeptics argue it's just an unusually resilient mesa, a remnant of ancient volcanic activity, or a lucky survivor of relentless cosmic bombardment. They point to Earth's own geologic oddities like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming as proof that nature can sculpt the improbable. But proponents of the artificiality theory counter with unsettling details. The tower's near perpendicular angles, its alignment with other anomalous structures, and the eerie way its shadow doesn't quite match the surrounding topography. Some researchers even claim to detect geometric patterns at its base, suggesting layered or stacked segments, features far more reminiscent of construction than erosion. Then there's the timing. Why did this tower only come to light in modern orbital imagery, despite decades of lunar observation? Conspiracists whisper that earlier missions might have deliberately avoided photographing it, while mainstream scientists attribute its late discovery to advances in imaging resolution. But the most provocative theory, that it's a relic, an artifact left behind by a civilization that once thrived on the moon, or perhaps a monitoring station placed there by something or someone else. Of course, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence, and so far, no rover or astronaut has gotten close enough to settle the debate. But that's the heart of the mystery. Until we can touch it, scan it, or see it up close, the Tower of the Moon remains a Rorschach test for our curiosity. Is it a geological fluke or a breadcrumb on the trail to something unimaginable? The answer, like the tower itself, looms just out of reach. Deep within the grainy black and white landscape of NASA's lunar reconnaissance images lurk two anomalies that have ignited fierce debate. Objects so geometrically precise, they seem to defy the randomness of nature. The first, nicknamed the Shard, rises like a jagged spike from the moon's surface, its angular edges and towering height starkly contrasting the smooth, cratered terrain around it. Nearby, the cube sits nestled in a rocky basin, its unnaturally straight lines and near-perfect right angles appearing almost sculpted. At first glance, they could be dismissed as tricks of shadow and resolution, but zoom in and the mind races. How could erosion or impacts create such clean, deliberate shapes in a world where chaos reigns? Scientists lean heavily on pareidolia, the human brain's tendency to impose familiar patterns like faces or structures onto random shapes. After all, we've all seen clouds that resemble animals or mountains that look like faces. Skeptics argue the shard and cube are simply unusual rock formations, their geometry amplified by low-resolution imagery and the stark interplay of lunar light and shadow. They point to similar formations on Earth, like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, where natural volcanic processes created hexagonal pillars so uniform they appear man-made. But conspiracy theorists counter with a compelling question. Why do these anomalies cluster in specific regions, often near other unexplained features? And why does the cube, in particular, cast a shadow that suggests a hollow interior, something no natural boulder should logically possess? The intrigue deepens when you examine the cultural footprint of these objects. Ancient astronaut theorists trace symbolic parallels between the cube and sacred geometries found in terrestrial monuments, from the Kaaba in Mecca to the foundational myths of civilizations like Sumer, where cube-shaped gods' houses were said to descend from the heavens. Meanwhile, declassified documents from Cold War-era space programs reveal that even intelligence agencies flagged certain lunar anomalies as of potential strategic interest, though whether that referred to geological quirks or something else remains classified. Yet the most tantalizing clue might lie in the data gaps themselves. Despite decades of lunar mapping, no follow-up missions have targeted these sites for closer inspection. Official explanations cite budgetary constraints and scientific priorities, but skeptics whisper about deliberate avoidance. Could it be fear of what we might find, or merely the pragmatic reality that science favors mysteries with clearer paths to answers? Either way, the shard and the cube endure as silent sentinels, beckoning us to look closer, even as the moon guards its secrets with a patient, cratered smile. Until we land beside them, their truth will remain trapped between shadow and speculation. Buried within the desolate expanse of the moon's Blair crater lies a formation so out of place, it seems ripped from the pages of a sci-fi novel. The Blair Cuspids are a cluster of towering spires, some reaching heights comparable to a 10-story building, stand in near-perfect alignment, their sharp silhouettes cutting against the lunar horizon like a row of ancient monoliths. Discovered in orbital images from NASA lunar orbiter missions, these structures immediately ignited controversy. What kind of natural process could sculpt such uniform, needle-like formations on a world where random impacts and erosion dominate the landscape? The Cuspids arrangement is what first raises eyebrows. They aren't scattered haphazardly like typical boulder fields or volcanic remnants. Instead, they form what appears to be a deliberate linear pattern, with several spires spaced at eerily consistent intervals. Some researchers argue this could point to volcanic activity, perhaps the remnants of hardened lava fountains that once erupted in a straight fissure. Others suggest they might be the last stubborn fragments of an ancient crater rim, surviving while the surrounding terrain eroded away. But critics of these theories highlight a glaring inconsistency. Why would only these slender spires remain while everything else wore down? The moon's surface is bombarded relentlessly by micrometeorites, yet the Cuspids stand tall, seemingly immune to the forces that should have reduced them to dust over billions of years. Then there's the shadow problem. High-resolution images reveal that the Cuspids cast unusually crisp, elongated shadows, much darker and more defined than those of nearby rocks. Some analysts propose this could indicate a denser composition, maybe even metallic elements embedded within the spires. Metal doesn't occur naturally in such pure forms on the moon without human or extraterrestrial intervention, leading to wilder theories. Could these be the remnants of some long-abandoned installation, ancient support structures for a colossal, since-vanished lunar arch, or even the markers hypothesized in classified aerospace reports, rumored to be navigational aids placed by an advanced civilization. Mainstream science, of course, urges caution. Pareidolia strikes again our brains, instinctively imposing order on randomness. And yet, even skeptics admit the Blair Cuspids defy easy categorization. Unlike the Moon's other oddities, these spires haven't been revisited or studied up close. No rover has rolled past them, no astronaut's glove has brushed their surfaces. Until then, they remain frozen in grainy photographs, their secrets locked in the stark duality of shadow and light. One thing's certain, whether natural wonders or something far more provocative, the Blair Cuspids force us to confront just how little we truly understand about the silent world orbiting above us. Tucked away in the Moon's rugged terrain lies an anomaly that looks like it was plucked straight from an architect's blueprint, the so-called Lunar Bridge. First spotted in images from the 1960s, this bizarre formation arcs gracefully over a chasm, its smooth, symmetrical curves starkly contrasting the jagged chaos of the surrounding landscape. At roughly 2 miles long, it's not just some minor oddity. It's a feature so visually striking that even hardened skeptics pause when they see it. How could something so meticulously shaped exist on a world where nature's handiwork is usually raw and unrefined? The most widely accepted theory points to collapsed lava tubes, tunnels formed by ancient volcanic flows that later caved in, leaving behind a natural roof spanning the gap. Earth has its own examples, like the Kazumura Cave in Hawaii, where similar processes created arching rock formations. Proponents of this view argue the Moon's volcanic past makes it a prime candidate for such structures, especially in regions like Mare Crisium, where the bridge was photographed. But here's where things get murky. Lava tubes typically leave debris piles or uneven edges when they collapse, yet the Lunar Bridge appears eerily smooth, with no visible rubble beneath it. Even stranger, its curvature seems too uniform, almost engineered, defying the usual randomness of geological decay. This is why anomaly hunters can't let it go. To them, the bridge doesn't just look unusual, it looks intentional. Some highlight its uncanny resemblance to terrestrial suspension bridges, down to the way it thins at the center, as if designed to distribute weight. Others point to its isolation. Why would a lone lava tube collapse so perfectly in one spot while the surrounding area shows no signs of similar activity? The debate took a wilder turn when researchers noted its proximity to other alleged anomalies, like the Shard and the Tower, fueling speculation that it might be part of a larger, hidden network. Then there's the timing. The bridge was captured during the Cold War space race, an era when lunar photography was still primitive. Some theorists argue that later missions avoided the area, while NASA insists higher resolution images simply revealed it to be a trick of light and shadow. But with no follow-up missions to inspect it up close, the question lingers: is this a geological fluke or something that challenges our understanding of the Moon's history? Until we can examine it firsthand, the Lunar Bridge remains suspended between two possibilities: a testament to nature's artistry or a relic of something far more extraordinary. Either way, it's a reminder that even in the silence of space, the Moon still whispers secrets we've yet to decipher. Dotting the Moon's surface like half-buried eggs, the lunar domes of Marius Hills defy simple explanation. These smooth, rounded formations cluster together in an otherwise barren landscape, some reaching heights of nearly 1,000 feet with uncanny symmetry. At first glance, they resemble the kind of volcanic domes we see on Earth, molten rock that once bulged upward before cooling into gentle curves. But when scientists scrutinized their dimensions, something felt off. Unlike terrestrial volcanoes, which erupt chaotically, leaving irregular shapes and varied sizes, the Marius Hills domes appear almost standardized, as if following some hidden blueprint. The mystery deepens when you examine their composition. Spectral analysis suggests many contain materials inconsistent with typical lunar volcanism, including unexpectedly high concentrations of minerals like ilmenite. On Earth, such findings would hint at industrial processing, yet here they sit on an airless world with no known history of plate tectonics or water erosion to explain the anomaly. Even stranger, some domes feature what look like vents or openings at their peaks, structures that, if found on our planet, would suggest artificial ventilation rather than natural geology. Mainstream planetary scientists argue these domes could be remnants of an ancient, highly localized volcanic episode, where lava seeped through fissures in just the right conditions to form such uniform shapes. But critics point to the odds. Why would nature produce dozens of near-identical structures in one region while the rest of the Moon's volcanic features, like the sprawling Mare Plains, show wild variation? The clustering alone raises eyebrows. It's as if something selectively sculpted this single patch of terrain while ignoring the surrounding landscape. Then there's the positioning. Several domes align along straight lines or geometric patterns, an arrangement rarely seen in natural formations. Ancient astronaut theorists pounce on this detail, comparing them to terrestrial megalithic sites like the pyramids of Giza, where precision placement hints at deliberate design. Others propose they might be protective coverings shielding for underground complexes, perhaps, or even the remnants of a long-abandoned lunar base. Skeptics counter that pareidolia is at work again, our brains imposing order where none exists. But the most compelling question remains unanswered. Why has no mission ever landed near these domes to settle the debate? While NASA and other space agencies prioritize more conventional lunar sites, the Marius Hills sit untouched, their secrets preserved in vacuum-sealed silence. Whether geological oddities or something more profound, they serve as a humbling reminder that even in our cosmic backyard, the Moon still holds puzzles we're only beginning to piece together. Even the most celebrated moments of human space exploration aren't free from controversy, and few incidents raise more eyebrows than the case of the missing Apollo 11 telemetry tapes. These original recordings, captured during the first moon landing in 1969, contained unprocessed data streams from the lunar module's instruments, offering raw, unfiltered insights into the mission's most critical moments. Yet somewhere between the Moon and the history books, they vanished. Officially, NASA attributes the loss to routine data overwriting in the 70s, a cost-cutting measure that allegedly recycled old tapes due to budget constraints. But when you peel back the layers, the story gets murkier. Why would an agency so meticulous about documenting every rivet and bolt of its spacecraft casually erase the crown jewels of its greatest achievement? The official explanation hinges on practicality. Magnetic tapes were expensive in that era, and with thousands of hours of mission data piling up, NASA claims they prioritized newer missions over preserving every byte of Apollo 11's telemetry. Some tapes were reportedly reused to record satellite weather data, their lunar secrets erased in seconds, but whistleblowers and independent researchers have long contested this narrative. For one thing, NASA's own archives reveal meticulous preservation of lesser Apollo mission tapes, so why single out humanity's first steps on another world for deletion? Even stranger, the missing data includes high-resolution video feeds and unprocessed instrument readings that could have clarified anomalies later dismissed as glitches, like unexplained signal interference during the lunar descent. The debate took a sharper turn when former contractors came forward with claims that the tapes might have held more than just technical data. Rumors persist of anomalous readings, sudden temperature spikes, odd radiation fluctuations, even brief, unidentified radio transmissions that were allegedly scrubbed from the public record. NASA denies this categorically, pointing to the surviving copies of lower-quality data as proof nothing was hidden. Yet those copies lack the granularity of the originals, leaving gaps that conspiracy theorists fill with darker speculation. Did the tapes capture something inexplicable, something that didn't fit the triumphant narrative of the moon landing? perhaps the most compelling wrinkle is the timing. The tapes weren't just lost, they were reportedly overwritten just as public interest in the moon waned in the mid-70s, a period when NASA budget was slashed and lunar missions abruptly ended. To skeptics, it reeks of a cover-up, a way to bury inconvenient truths as attention shifted elsewhere. But to scientists, it's a tragic but mundane case of bureaucratic short-sightedness. After all, we've lost countless cultural artifacts to similar neglect, from early TV broadcasts to silent-era films. The truth may lie somewhere in between. Without the original tapes, we're left with fragments, a puzzle missing its most crucial pieces. What's undeniable is this: whether through accident or design, the erasure of the Apollo 11 telemetry tapes remains a glaring hole in our cosmic record, one that fuels whispers every time a new lunar anomaly emerges. And in that void, doubt thrives. Among the countless oddities documented on the moon, few are as visually arresting as the phenomenon known as the lunar wave. Amateur astronomers worldwide have reported witnessing what appears to be a massive, undulating shadow sweeping across the lunar surface, a motion so fluid and deliberate, it resembles an ocean wave rolling over a shoreline. The effect is both mesmerizing and unsettling, especially when you consider the moon has no liquid water, no atmosphere, and no known mechanism to produce such a dynamic, large-scale movement. So what exactly are observers seeing? The most straightforward explanation points to Earth's own atmospheric interference. When light passes through layers of turbulent air, it can distort celestial objects in peculiar ways, creating mirage-like effects. This could theoretically stretch or warp shadows on the moon, making stationary features appear to ripple or shift. But skeptics of this theory highlight a glaring inconsistency: the wave often moves in a single, unbroken direction, unlike the chaotic flickering typically caused by atmospheric turbulence. Even more puzzling, multiple observers from different locations have captured nearly identical wave patterns at the same time, suggesting the phenomenon isn't just a local trick of the eye. Others propose an optical illusion involving the interplay of sunlight and lunar topography. As the angle of sunlight changes during the moon's phases, shadows from mountain ranges or crater rims might create the illusion of motion when viewed from Earth. Yet this fails to explain reports of the wave moving against the natural progression of light, or instances where the shadow appears to break over surface features like a true wave would. Then there's the fringe theory, the idea that the lunar wave isn't an illusion at all, but evidence of something beneath the surface. Some researchers speculate about vast, hidden reservoirs of volatile gases trapped below the lunar crust, periodically escaping and distorting the terrain above. Others, venturing further into speculation, wonder if the wave could be the shadow of an enormous, translucent structure, something unseen, but momentarily revealing its presence as it catches the sunlight at just the right angle. Mainstream astronomy dismisses these notions as fantastical, but the lunar wave continues to defy easy categorization. Unlike most transient phenomena, it leaves no physical trace, no altered terrain, no thermal signatures, just a fleeting impression etched in the memories of those who have seen it. Until we can study the moon's surface with real-time, high-resolution monitoring, the wave remains a spectral enigma, drifting between the realms of science and speculation. Whether a trick of light or a glimpse into the moon's hidden dynamics, one thing's certain: it challenges our perception of a world we thought we knew. Consider for a moment the sheer improbability of stumbling across a perfect geometric shape on a world sculpted by chaos. Yet that's precisely what happened when NASA, a lunar reconnaissance orbiter, beamed back images of a stark, rectangular structure jutting from the moon's surface. Dubbed the Black Monolith by anomaly hunters, this eerie formation stretches roughly 15 feet high, its edges so unnaturally straight they seem laser-cut against the cratered wasteland around it. The resemblance to the alien monolith from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 isn't just coincidental. It's downright uncanny, sparking whispers of a cosmic inside joke, or for the more conspiratorially inclined, something far more deliberate. Geologists rush to offer rational explanations. They point to jointed bedrock, a phenomenon where cooling lava contracts, fracturing into geometric blocks. On Earth, we see this in places like Devil's Postpile in California, where hexagonal columns form near-perfect symmetry. But lunar gravity is weaker, and without weather or tectonic activity, such fractures would be rare and uneven. The monolith's razor-sharp angles and isolated placement defy even these odds. Then there's the matter of its surface. Unlike surrounding rocks which reflect sunlight diffusely, the monolith appears anomalously dark, absorbing light like a slab of polished obsidian. Could it be a rare outcrop of lunar basalt, perhaps? But why no debris at its base, no signs of erosion? It stands like a lonely sentinel, untouched by the forces that grind down everything else. The plot thickens when you examine its location, buried in the desolate expanse of Mare Crisium, a region already steeped in mystery. Soviet lunar probes and Apollo missions both reported strange magnetic and gravitational readings here, though none ventured close enough to inspect the monolith firsthand. Astronomers like Dr. Mark Robinson, head of the LRO camera team, dismiss the alien artifact angle, attributing the shape to a trick of perspective, a boulder perched just right to cast a shadow exaggerating its edges. Yet even he admits the formation is oddly geometric, a concession that fuels speculation. What if the truth lies between the extremes? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest the monolith could be a marker, a deliberately placed beacon, whether by extraterrestrials or a lost human civilization that once reached the moon. They draw parallels to monoliths in ancient Earth cultures, from Stonehenge to the pyramids, all aligned with celestial precision. Meanwhile, declassified documents reveal Cold War-era intelligence agencies briefly investigated similar anomalies as potential non-terrestrial tech, though whether out of genuine concern or paranoid one-upmanship remains unclear. The lingering question isn't just what the monolith is, but why we've never gone back to study it. With all our rovers and orbiters, why has no mission ever targeted this enigma? Budget constraints, scientific priorities, or something less comfortable to admit? Until we scrape a sample from its surface, the black monolith will remain a Rorschach test for our curiosity, reflecting back whatever we project onto it, be it geological wonder, cinematic homage, or a silent challenge from the stars. One thing's certain, in a universe that rarely conforms to straight lines, its very existence feels like a whisper of intent. Beneath the moon's dusty surface, hidden in plain sight, lie gaping voids so vast they could swallow entire city blocks, the lunar pit caves. These yawning chasms, some stretching hundreds of feet across, puncture the moon's crust like skylights to an underworld we've only begun to explore. Discovered by Japan's Selene spacecraft in 2009, these pits defy the moon's reputation as a dead, static world. Instead, they hint at a subterranean labyrinth waiting to be uncovered. The leading theory suggests these pits are collapsed sections of ancient lava tubes, tunnels formed billions of years ago when molten rock flowed beneath the surface, leaving behind hollow arteries after the magma drained away. On Earth, similar formations exist in places like Hawaii's Kazumura Cave, but the moon's weaker gravity and lack of erosion preserve these tubes on a staggering scale. Some estimates suggest lunar lava tubes could stretch for miles, with ceilings high enough to accommodate towering structures, and that's where the mystery takes a provocative turn. Why do certain pits exhibit thermal stability, maintaining a constant temperature of around -20 degrees Fahrenheit? A stark contrast to the moon's surface, which swings from scorching 250 degrees in sunlight to freezing -250 at night. This equilibrium makes them prime candidates for future human bases, but also raises an eyebrow. Could something else have already taken advantage of these ready-made shelters? Images from NAS, a lunar reconnaissance orbiter, reveal odd reflective patches inside some pits, suggesting the presence of ice or, more intriguingly, materials unlike the surrounding regolith. The Mare Tranquillitatis pit, one of the most studied, adds fuel to the speculation. Its interior walls show unnervingly smooth sections, as if weathered by something other than random collapse. Even more compelling are the rare instances of bridge-like structures spanning some pits, formations that geologists struggle to explain through natural processes alone. Conspiracy theorists point to declassified Cold War-era reports where Soviet scientists allegedly detected anomalous energy readings near these pits, though mainstream researchers dismiss this as radio interference. Yet the most tantalizing question remains: what lies in the darkness below? With missions like NASA's Artemis program targeting lunar caves for exploration, we may soon have answers. Until then, these pits stand as silent gateways, inviting us to wonder whether they're merely geological wonders or the vestiges of something far older and far more enigmatic lurking just beneath our feet. Astronauts have a term for it: lunar transient phenomena, but even that clinical label can't strip away the eerie fascination of lights that shouldn't be there. For centuries, observers have documented unexplained glows drifting across the moon's surface, from medieval astronomers sketching flaming stars near its craters to Apollo astronauts radioing Houston about streaks of light moving in formation. Buzz Aldrin himself famously mentioned seeing a moving light during the Apollo 11 mission, describing it as pacing their lunar module at a steady speed, an account he later tempered with scientific caution but never fully retracted. These aren't just blurry camera artifacts or tricks of the eye. They're consistent, deliberate movements captured by too many credible witnesses to dismiss as coincidence. So what could explain these wandering lights? The simplest answer points to meteorites' high-speed space rocks vaporizing as they slam into the moon's surface, creating brief but brilliant flashes. NASA's Lunar Impact Monitoring Program has recorded hundreds of these events, some bright enough to see with backyard telescopes. But here's the catch: meteor flashes last seconds, while many reported moving lights persist for minutes, even hours, tracing paths across the terrain with unnerving precision. Others flicker in and out of existence, reappearing miles away moments later, a behavior no known natural phenomenon replicates. Then there's the reflection theory, sunlight bouncing off orbiting satellites or spent rocket stages. Skeptics love this explanation, but it crumbles under scrutiny. The moon's surface reflects so much light itself that external reflections would be drowned out, like trying to spot a flashlight in a fireworks display. Even stranger, some lights move against the moon's rotation, defying the trajectories of any known human-made debris. Which brings us to the most contentious possibility: could these lights be artificial? Not necessarily alien, though that's the leap conspiracy theorists make. NASA's own studies from the 60s speculated about electrostatic phenomena or outgassing creating plasma-like glows, but their models never fully accounted for the structured movements described by astronauts. Declassified Soviet-era documents reveal their cosmonauts reported similar anomalies, with one mission even aborting a landing due to uncontrolled luminous objects near the proposed touchdown site. The truth might lie in a blend of factors: rare geological activity, misunderstood cosmic rays, even optical illusions amplified by the moon's stark light and shadow. But until we have continuous, high-resolution surveillance of the entire lunar surface, these wandering lights will remain where they've always been, at the edge of our understanding, flickering just beyond reach. Whether natural or not, they serve as a reminder that the moon, for all its stillness, might still have a few surprises left to show us. For a few fleeting hours each lunar month, an eerie symbol materializes on the moon's surface, a perfectly formed X that seems etched into the landscape with unnatural precision. Known as the Lunar X, this phenomenon joins another transient marking, the subtle but equally striking V-shape, appearing nearby under just the right lighting conditions. At first glance, they look like deliberate glyphs, remnants of some long-lost lunar civilization or even navigational markers left by visitors. The truth, however, lies in a dazzling interplay of light, shadow, and celestial geometry. These formations owe their existence to a precise alignment of sunlight glancing off the rims of craters Purbach, Lacaille, and Blanchinus. When the moon reaches its first quarter phase, the sun's angle illuminates these craters' raised edges while leaving their interiors in darkness, creating intersecting slivers of light that form the iconic X. The V, meanwhile, emerges from a similar dance of illumination along the ridges of crater Euclid and its surrounding terrain. What makes these illusions so uncanny is their razor-sharp clarity, edges so crisp they defy the randomness of natural formations, appearing almost machined into the surface. Skeptics argue this is just another triumph of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to impose familiar patterns on chaotic landscapes. After all, we see faces in clouds and animals in constellations. But the lunar X and V challenge even this explanation. Their precision is mathematically predictable, recurring with clockwork regularity under identical lighting conditions. Amateur astronomers can set their calendars by these appearances, watching as the X emerges like a cosmic timepiece. This reliability has fueled alternative theories, from ancient lunar surveying marks to even stranger suggestions involving intentional celestial signaling. Mainstream science, of course, dismisses such notions. The X and V are textbook examples of lunar topography interacting with sunlight, no different than how Earth's mountains cast long shadows at sunset. Yet even the most hardened scientists admit there's something uniquely captivating about these illusions. Perhaps it's their fleeting nature, appearing only to vanish hours later. Or their unsettling symmetry, standing out starkly against the moon's otherwise chaotic terrain. Whatever the reason, they serve as a reminder that even well-understood phenomena can still spark wonder, and that the line between natural and supernatural often depends on the angle of the light. So the next time the moon reaches its first quarter, grab a telescope and witness this celestial magic trick for yourself. Just remember, while science has explained the mechanics, the mystique remains. After all, in a universe full of shadows, sometimes the most compelling mysteries are the ones we can predict, but never quite shake the feeling we're meant to be seen. Imagine if you could peer through the moon's surface and spot veins of glass stretching beneath the dust, not as fragile splinters, but massive, tunnel-like structures wide enough to drive a bus through. That's the spine-tingling claim behind the so-called glass tunnels, a series of alleged translucent formations snaking beneath the lunar crust. First flagged in orbital images, these anomalies appear as faint, glowing lines crisscrossing regions like Marius Hills and Aristarchus Plateau, their smooth, tubular shapes starkly contrasting the jagged terrain around them. At first glance, they could be dismissed as cracked lava tubes or trickery of light, but zoom in, and the details get stranger. Some segments seem partially collapsed, revealing what look like hollow interiors, while others reflect sunlight with an almost crystalline shimmer, as if made of something far more refined than ordinary lunar rock. The most grounded theory traces these tunnels to the moon's volcanic past. Billions of years ago, molten rock may have surged through subsurface channels, superheating the surrounding soil into a glassy lining before draining away. On Earth, similar processes create lava stalactites in caves like Iceland's Circular, where dripping magma forms delicate glass strands. But the moon's tunnels dwarf these examples, with some estimates suggesting widths exceeding 300 feet, dimensions that make even the most optimistic geologists pause. How could such colossal structures remain intact without collapsing under their own weight? And why do certain sections appear unnervingly uniform, as if shaped by more than just nature's haphazard hand? This is where the speculation ignites. Conspiracy theorists point to declassified Cold War-era documents, including a 1972 CIA report cryptically noting anomalous linear reflectivity, in lunar imaging, with one analyst scribbling possible artificial conduits in the margin. More recently, China's Chang missions allegedly detected electromagnetic irregularities near these tunnels, though officials attributed them to mineral deposits. But the most tantalizing clue comes from thermal scans. Some tunnels maintain a near-constant temperature, shielded from the moon's extreme surface swings. To some, that screams insulation, the kind you'd expect from a sealed structure rather than a porous geological relic. Mainstream science counters with Occam's razor. These are simply the best-preserved lava tubes in the solar system, their glassiness a quirk of the moon's unique chemistry. Yet even skeptics admit the tunnel's reflective properties are odd. Lunar glass usually forms in tiny beads from meteor impacts, not sprawling, coherent tubes. And then there's the clustering. Why do so many converge near sites like the Blair Cuspids or the Tower of the Moon, areas already bristling with anomalies? Perhaps the truth lies in the shadows, literally. Until we send probes or astronauts inside these tunnels, their translucent walls will keep us guessing. Are they nature's cathedral arches forged in fire and time, or something more deliberate waiting beneath the dust? One thing's certain. In a world where every answered question unveils two more, the glass tunnels remind us that sometimes the most profound secrets aren't hidden in darkness, but in plain sight if only we know where to look. Scattered across the moon's pockmarked surface, nestled in the shadows of ancient craters, lie objects that seem plucked from a mid-century UFO convention, the so-called lunar disks. These smooth, circular formations appear in orbital imagery with an uncanny symmetry, their edges so uniformly curved they could pass as landing pads or buried machinery. The most infamous example sits within the Paracelsus Sea crater, where a peculiar disc-shaped structure measures roughly 60 feet in diameter, its surface reflecting sunlight at an angle that makes it stand out starkly against the rough terrain. To the untrained eye, it looks like a metallic saucer half buried in the regolith, the kind of image that fuels endless conspiracy forums. But is this proof of extraterrestrial visitation or just another cosmic Rorschach test? Scientists lean hard into pareidolia, the psychological phenomenon that tricks us into seeing faces in clouds or animals in constellations. The moon's surface is a graveyard of odd shapes, boulders fractured into polygons, crater rims eroded into near-perfect circles, all sculpted by billions of years of meteor strikes and thermal stress. The disks, they argue, are likely the remnants of volcanic lava blisters, where trapped gases once pushed molten rock into domes that later hardened and collapsed. Similar features exist on Earth, like the lava domes in California's Mono Inyo craters, though none quite as geometrically pristine as their lunar counterparts. Yet the disks persist as UFO lore staples for reasons beyond their shape. Some exhibit anomalous reflective properties, bouncing back radar signals at intensities that don't match known lunar minerals. Others cluster in regions already dense with oddities, like the western edge of Oceanus Procellarum, where Apollo 12 astronauts reported strange magnetic readings. Then there's the timing. Many disks were first spotted in NASA early lunar orbiter images from the 1960s, an era rife with Cold War secrecy and burgeoning UFO panic. Declassified documents reveal that intelligence agencies briefly scrutinized these anomalies, not out of belief in aliens, but concern they might be Soviet hardware. The most compelling counterpoint comes from modern imaging. High-resolution shots from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter reveal most disks as nothing more than fractured mesas or exposed layers of bedrock, their symmetry exaggerated by low-angle sunlight. But a handful defy easy explanation. The Paracelsus disk, for instance, shows a raised rim and concave center, features inconsistent with typical lava formations. Independent researchers have digitally enhanced these images, claiming to spot segmented panels or even what appear to be support struts beneath the disk's edge, though mainstream astronomers dismiss this as pixelation artifacts. What keeps the mystery alive is the sheer improbability of these objects existing in such isolation. If natural, why don't we see transitional forms, partially collapsed disks, or intermediate shapes? Why do only a few craters harbor them? Ancient astronaut theorists pounce on this selectivity, comparing the disks to terrestrial OOP-ARTs, out-of-place artifacts like the Antikythera mechanism that challenge conventional timelines. Others propose a middle ground. Perhaps they're the result of some rare, hyper-specific geological process we've yet to identify, a lunar quirk that only occurs under perfect conditions. Until we chip a sample from one of these disks or roll a rover up to their edges, they'll remain caught between two narratives. For skeptics, they're textbook examples of how light and shadow can conspire to fool us. For believers, they're silent sentinels, potential evidence that we're not the first to cast shadows on the moon. Either way, their very existence stretches our understanding of what's possible, proving once again that the moon's greatest trick isn't hiding its secrets, but leaving us just enough clues to wonder. Strange as it sounds, one of the moon's most unsettling mysteries isn't something that appeared, but something that vanished. Nestled within the rugged terrain of the Central Highlands, a crater documented during early Apollo missions seemingly disappeared without a trace by the time later orbiters scanned the same coordinates. Initial images from the 1960s clearly showed a distinct, bowl-shaped depression roughly 150 feet wide. Yet decades later, high-resolution cameras found only unbroken ground where the crater once sat. No debris field, no signs of collapse, just empty lunar dust as if the void had been meticulously filled in. Scientists first dismissed the anomaly as a case of mistaken identity, chalking it up to the grainy resolution of early lunar photography. They suggested what Apollo mappers thought was a crater might have been a trick of shadow, perhaps a transient dark patch caused by scattered ejecta from a nearby impact. But this explanation hit a snag when researchers compared multiple images taken under different lighting conditions. The crater appeared consistently, its rim casting the same distinctive shadow in every frame. Even more baffling, later missions using ground-penetrating radar detected a subsurface density variation exactly where the crater should have been, hinting that something might still lie beneath the smoothed-over surface. Alternative theories range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some geologists propose a rare lunar sinkhole event where volatile gases trapped beneath the crust explosively vented, causing the crater's walls to slump inward and its floor to rise like a settling souffle. Others point to electrostatic forces. The moon's surface is known to accumulate electric charges that could theoretically levitate fine dust, gradually filling small depressions over time. But neither theory fully explains the speed of the disappearance. Based on the timeline between observations, the crater vanished in less than a decade, a blink of an eye in lunar geology. Then there's the more controversial angle. Declassified documents from the Soviet Lunokhod program mention surface instability events near the same region, with one rover's sensors briefly registering seismic tremors unrelated to meteor impact. Conspiracy theorists pounce on this, suggesting the crater might have been deliberately erased either to conceal something buried there or as collateral damage from some unseen activity. Mainstream researchers scoff at the idea, but even they admit the vanishing act is puzzling. Without fresh missions to the site, the truth remains buried, just like the crater itself. Perhaps the most compelling clue comes from an unexpected source: Apollo mission audio transcripts. During a routine check of the lunar module's landing radar, one astronaut can be heard muttering, "That's not where it's supposed to be," before the conversation is abruptly cut off by static. Official records attribute the glitch to radio interference, but when paired with the missing crater, even skeptics pause. Whether a geological fluke, a photographic quirk, or something far stranger, this lunar disappearing act reminds us that sometimes the most unsettling mysteries aren't what we find on the moon, but what we lose. The moon's mysteries aren't just confined to towering spires or ghostly lights sometimes. They come in deceptively simple packages. Take the case of the lunar spheres, perfectly round objects caught on camera rolling across the surface or hovering just above it. These orbs range from the size of a basketball to massive globes dwarfing lunar rovers, their smooth contours standing out starkly against the jagged terrain. One of the most famous sightings occurred during the Apollo 16 mission, when astronauts filmed a spherical object moving erratically near the Descartes Highlands. The footage shows it maintaining a steady altitude before abruptly changing direction behavior that left both the crew and mission control scrambling for explanations. At first glance, these spheres could be dismissed as volcanic lava balls, gas-filled bubbles from the moon's ancient fiery past that solidified and later broke free from the surrounding rock. Earth has its own examples, like the spherical bomb sag formations in Idaho's Moon Crater National Monument, but lunar geologists quickly hit a snag with this theory. The moon's volcanic activity ceased over 1 billion years ago, and its lack of atmosphere or erosion means any surviving bubbles should be firmly embedded in the crust, not rolling freely. Even stranger, thermal scans of some spheres reveal inconsistent heat signatures, parts of their surfaces radiating warmth while adjacent sections remain icy cold, as if their interiors contain isolated heat sources. Then there's the movement. While some spheres appear stationary, others in orbital imagery show linear tracks behind them, suggesting they've rolled uphill or changed direction without visible slopes or impacts to explain the motion. Apollo mission transcripts hint at even weirder details. During a private communication channel not intended for public release, one astronaut can be heard muttering about a metal glint from a nearby sphere before the audio cuts to static. NASA later attributed the comment to sunlight reflecting off a helmet visor, but the timing just as the object executed a 90-degree turn left room for doubt. The debate takes a sharper turn when examining declassified Soviet Lunokhod rover data. In 1973, Lunokhod 2's cameras captured a cluster of spheres arranged in a near-perfect equilateral triangle, a formation that persisted for 3 lunar days before vanishing. Engineers initially suspected a camera malfunction, but subsequent images revealed the same area littered with shallow, circular depressions where the spheres had apparently rested. Modern analysis suggests these indentations lack the compression marks expected from heavy objects, almost as if the spheres were weightless or anchored by something other than gravity. Mainstream astronomy pushes back hard against the extraterrestrial angle, proposing alternative explanations like electrostatic levitation, where charged dust particles could theoretically assemble into temporary spheres under the moon's unique conditions. Others point to moonquake vibrations slowly dislodging ancient volcanic globes over millennia, but these theories struggle to account for the directional changes and clustered positioning witnessed in multiple incidents. Ancient astronaut theorists, meanwhile, draw parallels to similar spherical artifacts found in terrestrial archaeological sites, from the stone spheres of Costa Rica to the hollow metal orbs described in Mesopotamian texts as divine messengers. Whether natural wonders or something more enigmatic, the lunar spheres represent a puzzle that refuses to fit neatly into any scientific box. Their very existence challenges our assumptions about the moon's geologic history and raises provocative questions about what might still be active beneath that silent, dusty surface. Until we retrieve one of these objects for study, they'll remain cosmic marbles scattered across the lunar landscape, daring us to unravel their secrets. Among the moon's many fleeting mysteries, few are as maddeningly elusive as the so-called blinking anomaly, a strobe-like light that pulses at irregular intervals from the same patch of lunar real estate for centuries. Documented as far back as 1787 by astronomer Sir William Herschel, who described it as a star-like point winking on and off with mechanical precision, this phenomenon continues to defy even modern attempts at explanation. Unlike transient lunar phenomena that flare and fade randomly, the blinking anomaly follows a pattern, appearing near the crater Aristarchus approximately every 72 hours before vanishing again into the darkness. What makes this light so perplexing isn't just its regularity, it's the way it behaves. High-speed cameras have captured the anomaly switching on and off in bursts as short as 0.2 of a second, a tempo that rules out most natural explanations. Meteorites don't strike with such metronomic timing, and volcanic gases wouldn't vent in such crisp, repeatable flashes. Even more puzzling, spectral analysis reveals the light contains an unusually high proportion of green wavelengths, a hue rarely seen in lunar geology but eerily reminiscent of certain artificial light sources. Scientists have scrambled to propose plausible theories. One camp suggests the flashes could be sunlight catching the edges of a perfectly angled crystalline formation, perhaps a massive outcropping of olivine or another reflective mineral. The moon's lack of atmosphere would allow these reflections to appear startlingly sharp, like a cosmic Morse code glinting from the surface. Yet this theory falters when confronted with the anomaly's precise timing. Natural crystals wouldn't realign with such clockwork consistency to produce repeatable flashes over centuries. Another hypothesis points to electrostatic discharge. The moon's surface builds up powerful electric charges during the long lunar day, which could theoretically arc across gaps in the soil, creating brief, brilliant sparks. But these discharges should be random and widespread, not localized to one crater with predictable regularity. Then there's the more controversial angle, the possibility of an artificial source. Declassified documents from NASA, a Project Moon blink in the 1960s, reveal the agency briefly investigated whether the flashes could be some form of signaling. Cold War paranoia even led to tense discussions about Soviet lunar activities, though no evidence ever surfaced. Modern researchers like Dr. Paul Withers of Boston University have calculated that the energy required for such visible flashes would be modest, comparable to a car's headlight, raising the uncomfortable question: if it's not natural, who or what could have left a beacon running for centuries? The truth remains locked in the shadows. Even with today's advanced telescopes, the blinking anomaly's exact origin point is maddeningly difficult to pinpoint, always just beyond the resolution of our best lenses. Each flash seems to taunt us, a cosmic strobe light daring humanity to look closer. Whether it's a geological oddity, an alien lighthouse, or something we haven't even conceived, one thing's certain: this isn't just another lunar quirk. It's a rhythm without a reason, a signal without a sender, and one of the moon's most stubbornly unsolved riddles. Rising from the lunar surface like an ancient sentinel, the so-called Lunar Pyramid in the Yukut region stands as one of the moon's most hotly debated anomalies. First spotted in early orbital images, this striking formation boasts 4 distinct triangular faces meeting at a central apex, a geometry so precise it seems chiseled by design rather than chance. Measuring roughly half a mile wide at its base, the structure dominates its surroundings, casting angular shadows that shift like sundials across the cratered terrain. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss as a trick of light and perspective, but the more you examine it, the harder that explanation becomes to swallow. Geologists have a playbook for such oddities. They point to the moon's violent past, where asteroid impacts and volcanic upheavals could theoretically sculpt steep, faceted landforms. Some suggest the pyramid might be a lunar mesa, a surviving remnant of harder rock that resisted erosion while the surrounding material weathered away. Others propose it's an unusually symmetrical volcanic neck, the solidified throat of an ancient volcano exposed over eons. Earth has its own examples, like Wyoming's Devil's Tower, where erosion reveals similarly geometric pillars. But here's the catch: lunar gravity is weaker, and without wind or water to wear down surfaces, such precise erosion seems improbable. Even more puzzling, spectral scans reveal the pyramid's composition differs from its surroundings, with higher concentrations of metals like titanium, a detail that doesn't neatly fit standard geological models. This is where ancient astronaut theorists pounce. They highlight the pyramid's uncanny resemblance to terrestrial monuments from Giza to Teotihuacan, suggesting it could be part of a shared architectural language left by an advanced interstellar civilization. Some go further, citing declassified Cold War-era intelligence reports where analysts allegedly flagged the Yucatan region as a zone of anomalous activity. Wildest of all are claims that Apollo mission seismometers detected hollow chambers beneath the structure, though NASA officially attributes those readings to natural lava tubes. The debate intensifies when you consider the pyramid's alignment. Unlike most lunar features which face random directions, two of its sides point directly toward major lunar landmarks, the crater Yucatan and the nearby Mare Vaporum. To skeptics, this is coincidence. To believers, it's evidence of intentional placement, perhaps as a navigational marker or even an energy conduit. Modern imaging compounds the mystery. High-resolution shots reveal faint, grid-like patterns on the pyramid slopes, features some interpret as weathered masonry joints, while scientists argue they're likely fracture lines from thermal stress. So where does the truth lie? The answer, as always, demands closer inspection, something no mission has yet attempted. Until we land a rover on those enigmatic slopes or beam back millimeter-precise scans, the lunar pyramid will remain a Rorschach test projected onto the moon's silent surface. Whether a geological marvel or a monument to forgotten builders, one thing's certain: its very existence challenges us to reconsider what we think we know about our closest celestial neighbor. And in that challenge, perhaps, lies its real purpose. Even in the stark black and white imagery of the moon's surface, one photograph from Apollo 17's mission has sparked decades of debate. A shadowy figure frozen in mid-stride, seemingly watching the astronauts from a distance. Captured in frame AS17-12122873, this eerie silhouette resembles a humanoid form, complete with what looks like a head, shoulders, and outstretched arms. At first glance, it's hard not to feel a chill. Could something or someone have been standing there when humanity took its final steps of the Apollo era? But the truth, as always, is a masterclass in how light and shadow conspire to deceive us. What appears to be a humanoid figure is actually a confluence of jagged lunar rocks and the sun's harsh angle, casting elongated, human-like shadows across the uneven terrain. The head is likely a boulder perched atop a small ridge, while the body is just a trick of perspective, another rock in the foreground catching the light just right to simulate limbs. It's a phenomenon photographers call simulacrum, where random patterns assemble into familiar shapes, like seeing faces in clouds or animals in mountain ranges. The illusion becomes even clearer when you examine the original, unenhanced image. Higher resolution scans reveal rough edges and inconsistent proportions, details our brains gloss over when filling in the gaps. Skeptics highlight how the figure's size varies dramatically depending on the viewer's assumptions about distance. If it were a person, it would have to be either impossibly tall or standing much closer to the camera than the astronauts, who never reported seeing anything unusual. Yet the legend persists partly because of the photo's timing. Apollo 17 was humanity's last lunar mission for decades, leaving this anomaly frozen in time without follow-up investigation. Conspiracy theorists cite declassified documents mentioning unexplained visual phenomena during the mission, though NASA attributes these to reflections or equipment artifacts. Meanwhile, the figure's pose slightly tilted as if mid-movement fuels speculation that it wasn't just a static rock formation. Scientists counter with simple physics. The moon's lack of atmosphere means shadows are razor-sharp and unforgiving, creating crisp outlines that don't soften or blur like they would on Earth. A rock cluster that would go unnoticed in terrestrial lighting can, under lunar conditions, transform into something uncanny. To test this, researchers have recreated the scene using scaled models and lighting matching the mission's conditions. The results, nearly identical humanoid shadows, emerge from entirely random rock placements. But here's what makes this anomaly linger in the imagination. It's not just about the figure itself, but why we're so quick to see it. Our brains are wired to recognize human forms. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. On a barren world where no life should exist, that instinct misfires spectacularly, turning geology into ghost stories. Whether a trick of the light or something more, the Apollo 17 figure reminds us that the moon's greatest illusions aren't just in its craters, but in the way it plays tricks on the minds of those who dare to look. There's a reason the moon's far side has earned the nickname the quietest place in the solar system, a desolate expanse where Earth's constant radio chatter fades into utter silence. This unique acoustic dead zone isn't just a curiosity. It's a carefully calculated shield, leveraging the moon's colossal bulk to block our planet's electromagnetic noise like a cosmic soundproof wall. When China's Chang'e 4 mission touched down there in 2019, it marked humanity's first visit to this radio-shadowed realm, revealing a landscape untouched by the buzzing interference that blankets the rest of the cosmos. But behind this scientific rationale lies a far more intriguing question. Was radio silence the only reason we avoided the far side for so long? The physics behind this natural shielding is straightforward yet brilliant. The moon's tidal locking, its same face eternally turned toward Earth, means its far side perpetually faces away, with over 2,000 miles of solid rock absorbing or deflecting our radio emissions. This makes it the perfect spot for sensitive astronomy, free from the distortion of cell towers, satellites, and broadcast signals that plague Earth-based telescopes. The same quiet that lets scientists study the universe's faintest whispers also fuels whispers of another kind. Declassified documents from the Cold War era reveal both American and Soviet space agencies detected bizarre, structured noise bleeding through the silence, brief, repeating signals that didn't match known cosmic sources. Official reports dismissed these as harmonic feedback from lunar geology, but the timing was suspicious. Most occurred near regions like the crater Van de Graaff, where orbital scans had previously spotted unusually conductive materials beneath the surface. Then there's the persistent murmurs about the so-called far side array, a phrase that pops up in 1970s aerospace memos describing anomalous metallic densities arranged in geometric patterns. Conspiracy theorists claim these could be remnants of ancient alien technology designed to harness the moon's radio shadow, either as a cloaking mechanism or a relay station. Mainstream scientists counter that the moon's violent history of impacts could easily scatter metal-rich asteroids into strange configurations. But the plot thickens when you examine unprocessed data from NASA's Lunar Prospector mission, which mapped the far side's mineral distribution. Certain areas showed spikes in elements like germanium, a semiconductor used in advanced electronics. With no clear geological explanation, of course, the truth might be less sensational but no less fascinating. The far side's unique conditions could be preserving natural phenomena we've yet to understand, from exotic crystal formations that amplify radio waves to pockets of plasma trapped beneath the crust. China's Queqiao satellite, which relays data from Chang'e 4, has intermittently recorded what researchers politely call non-terrestrial harmonic echoes, patterns that some mathematicians argue resemble prime number sequences. Whether these are cosmic coincidences or something more deliberate remains hotly debated. What's undeniable is this: in our quest to exploit the far side silence, we may have stumbled upon a cosmic library where every whisper carries layers of meaning. The moon's hidden face guards its secrets well, not just from our transmissions, but perhaps from our understanding. As new missions prepare to pierce that silence, one can't help but wonder what else we'll hear when we finally listen closely. The moon shouldn't have magnetic fields, at least, not according to everything we thought we knew about how planetary magnetism works. Unlike Earth, with its churning molten core generating a global magnetic shield, the moon's interior cooled off billions of years ago, its dynamo presumably dead and silent. Yet scattered across its dusty plains lie pockets of magnetism so intense they can deflect solar wind particles, localized anomalies that make no sense under conventional models. These lunar magnetic quirks aren't just scientific curiosities, they're glaring contradictions scribbled across the textbook of lunar geology, and they've been bamboozling researchers since the Apollo missions first stumbled upon them. Take the Reiner Gamma swirl, one of the moon's most striking magnetic hotspots. This sprawling, bright tendril isn't just visually captivating. Measurements reveal it's sitting atop a magnetic field roughly 10 times stronger than the surrounding terrain. That's like finding a functioning refrigerator in the middle of a desert where all electricity supposedly vanished ages ago. The leading theory suggests these fields might be relics of the moon's ancient past, frozen into the crust when its core was still active. But here's the catch: magnetic fields decay over time unless sustained, and the moon's dynamo is thought to have shut down over 1 billion years ago. Why haven't these anomalies faded into oblivion? The plot thickens when you examine their bizarre distribution. Instead of following geological features like lava flows or impact basins, these magnetic patches seem almost artistically placed. Some cluster in precise geometric arrangements, while others form looping arcs that mirror the swirling patterns seen in lab experiments where plasma interacts with magnetic fields. This has led to fringe theories suggesting the anomalies aren't natural at all, that they could be remnants of some long-lost technology designed to manipulate solar radiation. Mainstream scientists roll their eyes at this, but even they admit the patterns are oddly deliberate for random geology. Then there's the composition mystery. Lunar rocks from magnetic regions contain unusual concentrations of metallic nanoparticles, tiny flecks of iron and titanium that somehow aligned like microscopic compass needles. One hypothesis proposes asteroid impacts might have superheated the surface, melting these metals and letting them solidify under the influence of an ancient magnetic field. But to create fields this strong, the impacting object would have needed to strike at impossible velocities, leaving no trace of the expected debris. Others speculate about underground lunar lightning, enormous electrostatic discharges rearranging the crust's magnetic signature. Yet no experiment has ever replicated the scale needed to produce these anomalies. Perhaps the most baffling clue comes from Apollo mission data. Astronauts reported their compasses going haywire near certain craters, spinning wildly despite the moon's lack of a global magnetic field. Later orbiters confirmed localized magnetic bubbles in these areas, some stretching miles underground. The kicker: many of these zones overlap with sites where transient lunar phenomena, those mysterious flashes and glows, are most frequently reported. Coincidence maybe, but when cosmic breadcrumbs keep leading to the same places, even skeptics start wondering if there's a hidden trail. What's clear is this: the moon's magnetic anomalies are more than just scientific puzzles, they're clues to a history we've barely begun to decipher. Whether vestiges of a cataclysmic cosmic collision, remnants of an alien engineering project, or evidence of a lunar dynamo that somehow defied death, these invisible forces challenge our most basic assumptions about the silent world orbiting above us. And until we solve their riddle, they'll remain as enigmatic as the dark side they sometimes shield from prying eyes. For decades, scientists clung to the belief that the moon was drier than the most desolate desert, a bone-white wasteland where water couldn't possibly exist. Then came the bombshell discovery that shattered this assumption: thick deposits of water ice lurking in permanently shadowed craters near the lunar poles. These regions, some colder than Pluto's surface, act as cosmic deep freezes, preserving water that may have arrived via comet impacts billions of years ago. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community, rewriting our understanding of the moon's history and potential. But the deeper we dig into this lunar water mystery, the stranger it gets, because this ice shouldn't behave the way it does. The enigma begins with persistence. In a world without atmosphere, where temperatures swing between extremes, any exposed water should have sublimated into space eons ago. Yet orbital spectrometers like NAS, a lunar reconnaissance orbiter, keep detecting unmistakable signatures of H2O, not just trace amounts, but thick, gleaming patches that defy evaporation. Some craters, like Shackleton at the South Pole, contain enough ice to fill thousands of Olympic swimming pools. Even more puzzling, the ice isn't uniformly distributed. It clusters in bizarre, patchy concentrations, as if something or someone stored it selectively. Then there's the movement. Data from India's Chandrayaan-1 mission revealed water molecules migrating across the lunar surface during daylight hours, hopping from molecule to molecule like a slow-motion game of cosmic tag. This shouldn't happen on an airless world. One theory suggests the moon's soil might contain hydroxyl compounds, which solar radiation breaks apart and reassembles into water. Another proposes that the solar wind, blasting hydrogen atoms at the surface, binds with oxygen in lunar minerals to create spontaneous H2O. But these processes can't account for the sheer volume of ice found in polar craters, leading to whispers of a far more provocative possibility: underground reservoirs. The case for hidden water grows stronger when examining lunar gravity maps. Areas like the Aitken Basin exhibit gravitational anomalies, suggesting vast, porous regions beneath the crust, potential aquifers that could hold liquid water shielded from the vacuum above. The same subterranean networks might explain transient wet spots detected by NASA's L-Cross mission, which hammered a spent rocket into a shadowed crater and analyzed the plume. The impact kicked up not just ice crystals, but volatile compounds like methane and ammonia, ingredients that shouldn't survive without some form of geothermal or even biological activity. This raises the ghost of an even wilder question. Could the moon's water be part of a self-sustaining system? Martian glaciers flow, Europa's oceans churn beneath its ice. But the moon, long considered geologically dead, might be hiding a subtle hydrological cycle of its own. Recent simulations suggest that micrometeorite impacts could be gardening the ice, churning and burying it faster than sunlight can destroy it. Meanwhile, radar scans hint at layered ice deposits stratified like tree rings, implying periodic replenishment from an unknown source. Whether delivered by ancient comets, forged by solar wind, or seeping from secret depths, the moon's water is more than a scientific curiosity. It's a cipher, one that could rewrite the story of our solar system's evolution, or even hold the key to humanity's future among the stars. As lunar bases become reality, these frozen vaults may quench our thirst, fuel our rockets, and whisper secrets about the origins of life itself. But first, we must confront the unsettling truth. The moon isn't the barren wasteland we thought we knew. It's a world with hidden depths, both literal and figurative, waiting to be uncovered. When astronauts from the Apollo missions dropped their lunar modules onto the moon's surface, scientists expected a predictable thud, a solid impact echoing through seismic sensors for a few seconds, just like any other rocky body. Instead, what they recorded sent shockwaves through the scientific community, strange, reverberating echoes that lasted far longer than physics should allow. These weren't mere vibrations, they were resonant hums, some continuing for over an hour, as if the moon itself were ringing like a colossal hollow bell. The data was undeniable. During Apollo 12, astronauts intentionally crashed their ascent stage into the moon, creating an artificial moonquake. The resulting vibrations traveled through the lunar crust and were picked up by seismometers left behind. Instead of dissipating swiftly, the waves built in intensity, peaking and fading in a rhythmic pattern that mirrored the behavior of a massive, empty chamber. Subsequent missions replicated these eerie results, with Apollo 13's third-stage booster impact producing echoes that lasted 3 hours and 20 minutes, an impossibility if the moon were solid all the way through. Geologists scrambled for explanations. One leading theory suggests the moon's upper crust might sit atop a fractured, rubble-like layer, creating a megaregolith that could amplify and prolong seismic waves. Others propose ancient lava tubes, colossal underground tunnels left behind by volcanic activity, could act as natural echo chambers, but even these models struggle to account for the sheer duration and resonance of the vibrations. The moon's behavior aligns more closely with what you'd expect from a partially hollow structure, a notion that splits mainstream science down the middle. Enter the hollow moon hypothesis, a controversial idea that's lingered on the fringes since Soviet astrophysicists first raised it in the 1960s. Proponents point to the moon's unusually low density compared to Earth, about 60% as dense, suggesting it might contain vast caverns or even artificial cavities. Declassified NASA documents reveal that early mission planners briefly considered the possibility, with one memo speculating about non-terrestrial engineering after detecting anomalous gravitational fluctuations in certain regions. Mainstream researchers dismiss this as speculative nonsense, but even they admit the echoes defy conventional models. The mystery deepens when you examine the distribution of these seismic anomalies. The longest echoes consistently originate from the same areas, like the giant Imbrium Basin, where orbital scans have since revealed gravitational inconsistencies hinting at subsurface voids. Some researchers speculate these could be remnants of a primordial bubble formation, where the moon's crust cooled rapidly around pockets of trapped gas. Others, venturing into wilder territory, wonder if they're the skeletal remains of an ancient megastructure, long buried under eons of dust. What's undeniable is this: the moon doesn't just whisper its secrets, it sings them in low-frequency hums we're only beginning to decode. Whether natural or something more enigmatic, these echoes force us to confront an unsettling truth. The silent world above us might be far emptier or far stranger than we ever imagined. And until we drill past that dusty surface, the reverberations will keep haunting our theories, refusing to fade into silence. Of all the moon's mysteries, the case of the missing dust might sound like the least dramatic, until you realize just how bizarre it really is. For decades, scientists assumed our lunar neighbor should be buried under miles of powdery regolith, built up over billions of years of meteorite impacts grinding rocks into fine particles. Yet when Apollo astronauts first kicked up those iconic boot prints, they uncovered a puzzle. The dust layer averaged just a few inches deep. That's like expecting a snowdrift and finding barely a frost. Where did all the missing material go? The answer seems to defy physics, because on the moon, dust doesn't just sit there. It moves. Thanks to the lack of atmosphere, solar radiation charges lunar dust with intense electrostatic forces, causing it to levitate off the surface in eerie, slow-motion waves. Apollo astronauts witnessed this firsthand, describing streamers of dust hovering above the horizon long before sunrise, illuminated by sunlight still hours from reaching the ground. Later orbiters captured footage of entire dust fountains erupting from terminator regions, the dividing line between day and night, where opposing electrical charges create enough tension to launch particles miles into space. But here's where the math falls apart. Even with this electrostatic ballet, models suggest the moon should retain far more dust than it has. Some particles might escape into space, yet calculations indicate this accounts for less than 1% of the deficit. The real stumper: certain areas, like the vast flat plains of the Maria, have virtually no dust at all, while nearby craters are choked with it. This patchiness suggests something. or someone has been selectively sweeping the surface clean. One radical theory points to dust tsunamis. Meteorite impacts could generate shockwaves that fluidize the regolith, sending surges of particles racing across the landscape until they pile up in low-lying regions. Others speculate about hidden sinkholes or subsurface voids swallowing dust like cosmic quicksand. Then there's the wild card, transient magnetic fields. The moon's mysterious localized magnetism might create invisible shields that divert solar wind, preventing dust from settling in specific zones, a phenomenon observed near the Reiner Gamma swirl. The most tantalizing clue comes from an unexpected source, NASA's LADEE mission, which detected sporadic clouds of dust hovering tens of miles above the surface. These weren't tied to any known meteor showers or electrostatic events. Some researchers whisper about deep moonquakes, seismic ripples from the moon's core, vibrating the surface like a drumhead and shaking dust loose. But with no definitive proof, the mystery persists. Whether sculpted by invisible forces, swallowed by hidden voids, or propelled into space by a process we've yet to imagine, the moon's missing dust is more than a scientific curiosity. It's a reminder that even the simplest questions, like where the dirt went, can reveal just how little we truly understand about the world floating silently above us. And until we solve it, every footprint we leave there might just vanish faster than we think. From towering spires to phantom lights, from hollow echoes to wandering spheres, these 25 lunar anomalies aren't just curiosities, they're cosmic breadcrumbs leading us toward a startling truth. The moon, that familiar face in our night sky, is still hiding secrets in plain sight. Think about that for a moment. We've mapped its surface down to the millimeter, walked its dusty plains, and yet every answer we uncover seems to birth two new questions. Why do magnetic fields dance where they shouldn't? What carved those geometric structures too precise for chance? And who or what left those flickering lights as if signaling across the ages? This isn't just about unsolved mysteries, it's about humility. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes. The moon isn't some dead rock orbiting silently. It's a dynamic, whispering world, challenging us to rethink everything from planetary science to the very history of our solar system. Maybe some of these anomalies will turn out to be tricks of light or quirks of geology. But others, they might just be pieces of a puzzle we're only beginning to assemble. So here's your invitation: keep looking up, dive deeper into these enigmas, debate them, question them. Which anomaly keeps you up at night? Is it the blinking anomaly's metronomic pulse, the black monolith's razor edges, or the way the moon rings like a bell long after it's struck? Drop your favorite in the comments. We're all detectives in this cosmic mystery. And if you're hungry for more deep dives into the universe's unsolved riddles, hit subscribe. The truth is out there, and together we're just getting started.